Good morning. I have a 2014 Lacrosse Luxury Light. Having a slide problem here at the Schwintek slide. Problem is it stuck in the out position, and I've kind of learned a little bit about it trying to get it back in. So I thought I'd shoot a quick video. Motor's up top, so I'll stop this. Okay, so I climbed up the ladder. Now I'm at the top. There's a little screw right in here. Mine has a piece of silicone over it. This screw is actually just a support for the motor. So I'm going to pull that out now. Okay, so I got my screwdriver in there. A little hard to do with one hand, so I think I'll just stop it. But the idea is to get that screw out. Okay, I have the screw out now. It's just a little machine screw. Goes in up here in this threaded area. Not sure how well you can see in there. But then what you do is you can slide this whole rubber piece. I'm just going to go down the ladder. You can slide that rubber piece down. So I suppose it kind of acts as a dual purpose. It holds the rubber in place, and I'll just put that off to the side. So now, what you can see when you go back up here, if you pull the rubber flap back, that silver piece right here, that's the motor. I'll take some shots from inside. I've made some mods to be able to see it. But what you need to do, put a screwdriver between that black base and the silver motor and pry up. Can't do it with one hand, so I'm just going to shut this off for a minute. Okay, so I'm inside the trailer now, and this is the slide that would not move, and then I've disconnected the motor on the outside. So what I had to do was pull this piece of trim off, which I already did. So I just thought I'd kind of put that off to the side to show people. Then there was a piece of plywood behind it. It had screws, I think half a dozen of them in different spots. I pulled them out, and I was able to pull the plywood away. So this is the mounting base. Now you can see where the motor is. I'll get some more light. So that's the motor right there with the wires going into it. And you can see, I'll leave this light up here, that it's raised right now and it's loose because we pulled the screw on the outside, and it's uncoupled from the drive shaft that runs straight up and down on here. Okay, so I've unplugged the motor from the wiring harness. You can see a bunch of splices here. I'll talk about that later. I had to replace this motor end plug because it was damaged during a different episode. Okay, so now here's the motor, and I'm going to lift it out of the spot now. So it's lifted out. You can see there's a metal coupling still laying there. I'm going to have to get that out. But here's the motor, and it's got a keyway, or D, shaped to the end of the drive shaft. I don't know if I can get this to focus very well. Maybe the mirror's messing it up. Okay, now I need to get that coupling out. So I've got a magnet on a little rod here, and I'm going to pull that out. And you can see the end of it. Not very good light in here. Is that shape for the keyway. And the other end has a shape to fit onto the drive shaft that runs vertically on the Schwintek system. So here's something else that I did to be able to get the motor out. So you can see I'm holding a piece of metal here. It's part of the Schwintek track. I took, and there's a line, a channel that ran down here, and you can see the rest of it here behind this wire, and I followed that down and then cut straight across. So I cut vertically and straight across. The new Schwintek systems actually have this cut into them already for motor removal. The old ones do not. I was told I would have to tip the track out to make this work. Now I've left enough space between the bottom and the motor mount, and a couple inches up, just so it doesn't rattle out. And what actually holds it in place is this is where that machine screw was on the outside. I don't know if I'm going to leave it in this video or have a separate one, but I will put it on. And it's a little machine screw that stops it from moving vertically up and down. So this is much easier than disassembling and removing the tracks out. Structurally, it's solid. Like, there's nothing flexing or moving anywhere. And like I said, it's what's been done on the new systems. So I did this, and I used this Dremel Multimax. I don't think it really matters what kind you use, but I just used that and fit it in there and followed that channel down and then cut it across. I don't think it took me 5 minutes to do that. And it has made the world of difference. And now actually I can physically move the slide too. Because now you can move the slide because the motor's out of the way. And it's got a 500-to-1 gear reduction is what they say on these little Schwintek motors. But you can slide the slide in and out. If you push on this side, the other side actually still worked. So got my wife to hold the button while I pushed, and we could push it out then or in, as the case was when we were out the first time when it happened. But I learned a little bit more about Schwintek now doing this. Okay, just thought I'd do a little video on my Schwintek motor. I had some problems with the connector on the end, got ripped off. My slide jammed up, had to disconnect the motor and manually push in the slide. I kind of talk about that in some other videos. But when that happened, it tore this connector off of the end of the motor. So I couldn't plug it in. I did a quick test on the motor, just ran red, black to a 12-volt source, and the motor still worked, so it still turned. So what I did is I tried to find these connectors to put on the end, and really it was a battle trying to find them. None of the RV shops were interested, just wanted to sell me a new motor. I didn't really like the idea of spending $500 or in that neighborhood. If I did it myself, to do the replacement would have been more for them to do it. So anyways, I found this shop here, Lee's Electronics. It's in Vancouver, British Columbia. Poker chips are there, just blocking out some of my personal information. But I ordered this here. I ordered jumper wires, JST, PH 6-pin, 2mm. As you can see, the shipping was more than the actual parts. And I wound up just getting that for like $27. And I bought some extra ones just in case, so I got some extras. But anyways, spliced them in. The color of the wires did not match, but it didn't really matter. I've already plugged it in, tested it, ran the slide in and out a couple of times. It's working fine. It's the perfect connector to fit the Schwintek harness. And I just thought I'd put this out there for people because if you've gone through the experience that I have, it wasn't that easy to find these parts. And I just used butt connectors and spliced them together. I'm going to do a bit of a tape job and get things cleaned up a bit and do a reinstall. That's all. Okay, so I've finished taping that up. Got my spare end there. Here's my connector end. It looks all nice and clean and good. And I'm going to go ahead and pop it into the trailer now. This is the package that came in. I'll just take a shot of that in case somebody needs that. It's the company I bought from, and here is kind of the details of what it was here. 6-pin 2mm MF set, $2.15 each. I did order some extras in case I messed up. I thought I'd grab a few. but got it on the first try. So I got some spares left. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and do an install now and make sure everything works. Okay, I just thought I'd make a couple more little mentions here. You can see these four studs sticking out the bottom of the motor. Those, when you go to put it in, will need to align onto that base. You can see the holes in the base, and that's what stops the motor from turning. That screw hole in the white there, that actually just stops the motor from moving up and down. It doesn't stop it from going sideways when you put torque on. So you need to get those studs into those holes. This is the coupling that goes on the end of the shaft. That end, with the more cross shape, that goes down onto the drive shaft. This end goes onto the motor. For me, I want to make sure when I install it that I have my motor in with the wires facing sideways. Because when the closet goes in, I don't want to pinch the wires between the trim on this closet when it goes back on. And if it was sticking straight out the front, it could damage them. So I'm going to put it sideways in the track and run the wires out through the top. Okay, so I've reinstalled the motor. You can see it still can lift up and down, but the studs are going down into the holes in the block. The motor's in. I've got the wiring. I put a little tape over the frame at the top, and I didn't cut up here, but it felt pretty rough to me already, so I didn't like it. So I taped things up just to protect the wires a bit. And I've got the plug here. I've got the harness down here. I'll get that mounted later, but I just wanted to get this part done, and then I'll have to remount the rubber back onto here afterwards, as that was on, covering everything up. It does let a surprising amount of light in. There's nothing I've removed on the outside really other than that one strip of rubber, so I guess excuse me, once it's fully extended out, it must seal everything up. I've got it kind of halfway now, half in and half out, just so it's easier to work on. Okay, so I'm just going to reinstall the rubber. It just goes on here, on this channel, and it slides upwards along this track. And I'll go up the ladder now. Pretty glaring out here, so it's a little hard for me to see what I'm actually pointing my camera at. I'm just doing this with a phone. But yeah, so I got it in place. This hole I have to get lined up right there. That's going to be where the screw goes in. Like I say, it's just a little machine screw. You know, I mean, if you lost it, pretty sure they would sell them at a few places. But I'm gonna try not to lose it. Okay, so we got that started. Now I'll just put my screwdriver on that and get that back in place now. Okay, so I'm still just getting that in now. Had to resort to two hands, trying to do it with one wasn't working. So what this screw does is it just stops the motor from moving up and down. It doesn't actually stop it from going side to side. So I guess if you're bouncing on the road, it'll stop it from bouncing out of place. Okay, so all installed, boots back in, slides about halfway out. So just going to make sure my ladder's out of the way here. I'm going to go inside and give it a test run. Okay, I'm back inside. This is the end of the wiring harness. I'm just going to plug it into that end of the motor. I can't do this with my I need both hands, is what I'm saying. Okay, so I just want to do a test run of this before I start, getting them wiring put off to the side and get the rubber put back on and make sure that everything's working before I close it all up. So, yeah, seems to be good. Yeah, moving in both directions well. Yeah, so looks like everything's doing good. I don't see the motor moving around at all. Like it feels very solid in there, actually. The wire looks like it'll be good and out of the way. Got it tucked up there. I'm gonna put some zip ties or keep things out of the way here, and I'll clean it up. I'll do that and I'll take a shot when I'm finished.